Hello, I am going to show you what I shoot with for my photography kit. Everything in my bag, and I'm going to explain why I use those things. But first, I feel like I need to show you my photos because why would you take the advice of somebody if you don't even like their art? So let's look at those, judge me, see if you want to watch this, and then let's do it. Okay guys, I did not expect to be out here hiking. I was just gonna pull off to the side of the road. That's why I am not dressed for this, but let's get started. First, let's start off with the Nikon ZF, my camera body. This is the camera for the film bro who has been forced to switch to digital to handle their worst nightmare, consistent client work. It reminds you of a beautiful film SLR while still having almost all of the capabilities of like a digital workhorse camera. It's full frame, 24 megapixels. It has pretty good stabilization, fast autofocus, great dynamic range and color. If you're looking for more in-depth, I've made a full review on it. You can watch that. For all these things, I will be giving a pros and cons list. First off, we have looks cool, takes cool pictures, does not cost too much money. This thing is frequently on sale for under $2,000, around $1,700. It has physical dials on top that are made of brass. That kind of falls into the it looks cool, but I love that part. Cons. It is consistent with old film cameras where it has a very small grip. You can easily fix that. I have a grip attached already. 24 megapixel sensor. In my opinion, that is the bare minimum that you can have on a digital camera. I would much prefer if it had like 35, 40 megapixels. I think it would really shine with that extra bit of resolution. Okay, next up is my primary lens. This is the retro 40mm f2.0 lens from Nikon. It is a relatively cheap lens, coming in at around $240 when it's on sale, which happens frequently. It is light, it is relatively fast at f2, and it has some imperfections. Personally, I think it gives the lens some good character. I really enjoy the subtle distortions around the edge and the vignetting. It's pretty fast to focus, and it's on my camera like 90% of the time. Okay, pros and cons for this one too. Pros, I love the look it gives. It's beautiful separation. It reminds me of medium format. It makes me zoom with my feet. I think I'm a better photographer when I have a prime lens and I have to get in there if I want to get close. It's relatively cheap, like I said before, and it's lightweight, but that leads me to the cons. It's plastic. I've found it's been pretty durable. I've dropped it from about hip height. It bounced up and I caught it again. Still works great. So I'm pretty impressed with that. It also has no aperture ring, but that is pretty common with Nikon's new mirrorless lenses. It's unfortunate, but you know, I'm not dying. This is stupid. Okay, now we have the next two lenses. First off is the 70 to 180 f2.8 from Nikon. It's the poor man's 70 to 200. However, I think saving over $1,600 is worth losing that 20 millimeters at the long end. Similar to the 40 millimeter lens, it's imperfect, but I actually enjoy a lot of the defects, or I like to call it character, that it gives. It creates a subtle, lovely swirl around the edges at the long end of the focal length when it's wide open. Also, when wide open, it has some visible vignetting. But let's go over some pros and cons. Pros, it's cheaper than the standard 70 to 200 by a lot. Quick autofocus, pretty close to just as sharp as the 70 to 200, and it has great close focus. Not many cons on this one. I would say I don't like the zoom being reversed on Nikon lenses. I guess that's not this lens specific, but still. And in my opinion, it's kind of an ugly lens. A bonus pro is that it's actually way smaller and lighter than the standard 70 to 200. So it works really well on this body. It's not imbalancing it too much. I just realized I recorded that last section without the lens on the camera, so I'm gonna do that right now. As you can see, it's not too unwieldy. It's relatively small, even when zoomed all the way out. And it works well on the Nikon ZF. I feel like the real 70 to 200 is a bit bigger and would maybe feel more imbalanced. I also have the 24 to 70 f4, and I'm gonna be honest, I do not use this one very much at all. I'd say it's like 85 to 90% the 40 mil, 10% the 70 to 180 mil, and then the rest, which is like 0 to 5%, this lens. It's f4, it's kind of boring. I'll give it a pros and cons list anyway though. Pros, 24 to 70 is a good range to have. It packs pretty compact. It's relatively sharp with minimal distortion. Cons, it's boring. It's f4. That's pretty dark. Just not a lens I find a lot of use out of. 24 is my widest focal length on an autofocus lens though, so yeah, it gets some use, but barely. So this is all stuff that I've been using for the past year, which is great. But what does the future hold? I am really excited for the next year. I plan on testing out many a new film and digital cameras. I've been getting into on-set behind the scenes photography a lot, experimental portraiture like this stuff. I've been making videos taking you through the process as I do these jobs and these creative works. And if any of this is interesting to you, or if you even like this video, please subscribe and continue watching. I appreciate so much all the support I've gotten so far. Join me, sub, hang out. And that feels like enough self-promotion, so let's get back to the video. Okay, next up we have direct flashes. I have a bunch, but I'm still looking for the one that I like absolutely love. The closest I've got though is the Godox Lux Senior Retro Flash. This one has really been working for me because it's not perfect. Like a lot of the things I use, it kind of has some imperfections. It doesn't spread the light perfectly evenly. It's not professional flash, but it gives it life in my opinion. It has like harsh hotspot with some fall off on the edges, but I think it looks really nice. So pros and cons, we have good style. It's unique looking for sure. I get a lot of questions about it. I think it matches the style of the camera. It's pretty bright. It's not as bright as I'd like, but I'm thinking recently I feel like I'm just unrealistic with the brightness of the flash that I need. Let me know in the comments if you guys know of something significantly brighter. Cons, it's not really focusable. You kind of just have the spread that you have. Unique looking, I have also in the cons list, because yeah, it looks weird and it might not fly in some scenarios. I haven't run into that, but it's possible. Next up, we have my film cameras. I like to have some sort of film camera when I'm shooting whatever I'm shooting. First up, we have the Samsung Slim Zoom 70S. It is a pretty unremarkable camera. It's a 35mm to 70mm zoom range. It's just been the most consistently in focus and on exposure point and shoot that I've had, so I kept it. Sometimes even the same make and model of a camera is going to be inconsistent from one to the other, so I just think I probably got lucky with this one. Next up is my Minolta P's, or P''S. I don't know exactly how you say it, but this is definitely a camera that I enjoy more than it's good. It's a cropped 35mm panoramic camera. It's very inconsistent. It has a limited shutter speed range. It frequently gets the focus and the exposure off, but when it does hit, it has taken some of my favorite photos of all time. So I kind of have to keep bringing it along, because when I do take photos and it works, it just works. For those film cameras, we have the film that I'm using. Currently, I've only brought Ilford HP5, but that's the first one. It gives me a nice, dramatic, grainy black and white. I always have Ilford on me, and it's pretty cheap, which is nice. Next, I have Portra 400. It's a very lovely color profile. I base my digital editing for color off of that film stock, so it's always good to have reference points. I always like to bring that along. And then the last film stock I frequently bring is Cinestill 800T. Just works great at night, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm like everybody else, just a slut for those big halation marks that you get over lights. It's nice, I don't know. Okay, the last section of my kit are the accessories. Kind of the most fun sometimes. Let's get into it. First, I am testing the Clever Supply Co. X Cam Mackie collab. Thank you, Cam. This is actually the first prototype that has their final design. I like it because it has the finished side of the leather on the inside, and it makes it easier to pull the camera up and actually take a picture rather than the unfinished rough side being on the inside. Next, I have the small rig grip that I keep on the bottom of this camera at almost all times. I have tried some wooden grips because of course aesthetic, but the small rig, the rubberized part, it feels so much more solid, and it's a bit lighter than the other grips, which is really nice because this is already kind of a heavy camera. We also have the JCC thumb grip. That's really nice for when I don't have a flash on the hot shoe. It just slots right in there, and then it gives you an extra point to, I don't know, stabilize your camera. Feels more comfortable. We also have a new addition, the Everyday filter from Polar Pro. I'm a huge fan of just a tiny bit of diffusion, and a lot of times I get that just by having my lenses be a little bit dirty. But I've been trying to avoid that because I guess that's not the proper way to do it. I don't know. But this also has a polarizer built in, which is nice. If you need that, I frequently just forget to actually use the polarizer and turn it the right way. But the slight diffusion is nice. I wish it had a little bit less diffusion. I think it's a 1/4 or a 1/8. Just have it, whatever it is right now, half it one more time. Make it a 1/16 or a 1/8. I don't know. I think that would help. Okay, so that's pretty much everything in the bag. I'm not gonna talk about the bag because I got it in trade for work and I don't know how much it is or any of the specs. I just use it. Yeah. Okay, that's, yes. Okay, moving on. Now, everything in this kit, and I mean everything in this kit, when put together, only costs about a little under $5,000. Now that is over $1,000 cheaper than the Canon R1 or the Sony A1 II. It's $500 cheaper than the Nikon Z9. And these are just the bodies. Now, I'm not comparing the Nikon ZF in this kit to those cameras. Those cameras are much better. But what I am saying is if you have a decent budget for a photo kit, you can do way more with this setup than one of those bodies alone. Just, you know, something to think about. Anyway, bye forever.